The last couple of years have seen an influx of private equity money into the insurance space. And folks like me have chosen not to sell, but there's plenty of people out there who have chosen to sell, like my guest today, Gabe Oh, who's a good friend. And I'm curious to find out, like, why would you want to sell? What are the benefits and what are your options? So I'm excited to have Gabe talk to us. You're going to find out about that right now. So Gabe O and I first met when I was in the infancy with Agents Growth Academy podcast, and I had no idea what I was doing. Not that I really know what I'm doing today, but he was one of my first guests, and we hit it off like fast friends, and we've been friends ever since. And I thought it was just time to invite him back, find out what's life like now and how have things changed for you. So welcome back to Agents Growth Academy, Gabe.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. I could tell since we've done this, the lighting and the production quality has improved, and you look even younger somehow. I don't know how you've gotten younger. Your hair has gotten darker as mine has gotten whiter. How is that possible? But you're looking good, and I'm glad that you're doing well. We kind of caught up offline, and we've talked on the phone since, and glad, so happy for you. Glad that everything is going well.
Thank you, my friend. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, it really feels in some way kind of like full circle because we're getting close. At least at this recording, we should have already passed episode 100, which was a huge milestone. Wow. But to have you back on, I think is very valuable. But honestly, I just remember, like, after we recorded, you made the best video. I mean, you spent some production quality time walking around Seattle and like basically introducing me to your city, and you picked up some swag along the way and you mailed it to me, and I was like, this dude is the real deal. He is an awesome guy.
I'm still waiting for you to come out here so you can see that gum wall on your own. So
heck yeah,
yeah,
man.
you guys are welcome. You have an open invitation. Would love to show you and your family around. So anytime you need a little Pacific Northwest, come out here, and I'll be your tour guide.
I can't wait. Yeah, and we're also going to have to somehow connect my son with you because he is going to school at Embry-Riddle next year. He just graduated high school and he wants to learn how to fly, and you are an accomplished pilot. How many hours do you have now? Do you know?
You know what? I am a little under 200 hours. So,
okay.
Yeah, I've been flying for about 3 years now.
Yeah.
I fly single engine Cessnas, the Cessna 172.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a lawnmower with wings. It's not a very big plane. So we just kind of putt around the Northwest here, but I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. When you're flying, you really have no choice but to just focus and think about the thing that you're doing. You can't. Yeah. It's not like you're having to think about something else, because you're not only are you using your eyes, your ears, your mind to kind of focus on exactly what you're doing. But I absolutely love it, and I'm excited that your son's going to venture in the world of general aviation and hopefully a professional pilot too.
Yeah, that's kind of what he wants to do. I don't know. We'll see. He wants to. I think he's going to join Air Force ROTC. So we'll see if that takes him down some kind of military path before that. Don't know, but yeah, the future is bright. Awesome. So it's awesome. All good.
Love it.
Well, so, you and I were talking about coming back on Agents Growth Academy, and I was like, hey, man, if this were a masterclass episode, what would you title it? And your title was literally like, I sold my agency. I was like, oh my gosh. So tell me about selling your agency, and let's get into some of the weeds in terms of like, why would people want to sell their, let's just start with that. I mean, why did you choose to sell your agency?
I mean, absolutely. There's, I think, so when I sold, actually, gosh, almost 2 years ago exactly.
So I guess it's been longer since you've been on here. I was saying it was a year and a half, but maybe it's been longer than that.
Yeah, I think it's been a little bit longer, but yeah, about 2 years ago, exactly 2 years ago is when we closed on the deal, sold to a national brokerage, private equity, backed by private equity. And, at that time, there isn't one particular reason
Yeah.
that we decided to do what we did. I would say there was probably 10 different reasons for me.
Yeah.
I think, selling, doing what deciding when to sell, it's such a personal decision.
Yeah.
Everyone I've talked to, and I speak this from experience, because after we sold, I approached some people that I know in the industry, and we brought in 6 other agencies within that group.
Wow.
So I was kind of involved in every single one of those.
Yeah.
And every single agency owner had a different reason of what was driving them to do this.
Yeah.
And then since then, in the last 6 months, I've been, I don't want to say consulting because I'm not getting paid for it, but they're reaching out to me because they know that I've done this, and I've kind of talked them through why I did, what to look out for.
Yeah.
And it's been great. So, like I said, I've got a little bit of experience on why one would choose to do that. But I can only speak for myself. I don't want to speak for anybody else.
Yeah.
I think there's a combination of multiple reasons. Number one, at the time when we did this, I loved this industry, and I still do. It's an amazing insurance industry that I love. But I wanted to do something that I couldn't do on my own.
Okay.
And joining this group, we were starting a platform in the region, and allowed me to go from one small agency to a large agency that had a combination of about 20 different agencies.
Yeah.
So it was something you're playing with, still working on insurance, but just kind of at a different level, and something that I didn't think I could do on my own.
Yeah.
And I wanted to experience that, and I knew that if I didn't take that opportunity, I wouldn't have that opportunity. So I did that. I think another reason in the back of my head, this is probably, I tend to put the cart before the horse all the time in my thinking process. But as you mentioned, I fly.
Yep.
Not that I do think flying is a very safe hobby, but I fly, and I'm getting a little bit older, got gray hair.
Oh, come on, man.
And I always in the back of my head just didn't, I always wondered, God, what if something was to happen to me?
Yeah.
It would be, for my wife, it would be a bit of a process to unwind all this, and do we have the right people in place, or we can trust them to make sure that the agency sold at the right number, and making sure that my family's taken care of. That always kind of bothered me in the back of my head.
Yeah.
And by doing this, it made it a lot more simplified for her and my kids. So that was another reason. But and I think people always say, "Oh, financially was definitely a reason," and it was, but it was more. It was you're taking some chips off the table, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. Because obviously I didn't know what was to come. This market, you and I talked about this. This market has absolutely changed in the last few years.
I know. I was saying,
Didn't know it was
dude,
going to change like this.
you may have sold at the perfect time before all this
Yeah.
hit the fan.
Did not know it was going to do what it was doing.
Yeah.
I feel for the agents on the front line and our clients, and even the carriers. I mean, some of the regional carriers are struggling.
Yeah.
And they're scrambling a bit. So it's just this market has done just an absolute flip of where it was from just a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I could go on and on, but yeah, those are kind of the top 2 or 3 reasons on why I did. I didn't have a succession plan lined up either.
Yeah.
My kids are 8 and 9 years old.
Yeah.
So they were a little bit young, and I didn't have that as well. So that's another reason I think a lot of people do sell. A lot of them are a little bit older, probably in their late 50s, 60s. Their kids are already graduated, doing something else, have a great life, and they don't have anyone to take over the agency. Or that's not something that they're interested in. So that's a really big reason on why some agency owners, I think, sell.
Yeah.
Or partnership or get acquired. But there's a lot of ways. And the one thing I learned is there's a lot of ways. You don't necessarily need to sell, or you don't even have to necessarily sell the entire agency. I mean, multiple ways to set yourself up to get rid of some of those concerns that you may have. I know of agencies that sold just portions of their agency, and that's worked out really well. So there's so many deal structures out there that you could really look at and make sure that you're taken care of and your family's taken care of.
Well, let's talk about some of the options when it comes to selling. I mean, did you have different options available to you? Like why did you eventually decide to go with the group that you went with?
Sure. So I had three that I narrowed down to. Now, I do know a lot of agencies will use what we call a broker, a business broker. That's specifically is really skilled in that insurance industry.
Right.
You've got to pay a premium for that. Obviously, it's usually a percentage of the deal or the premium or the EBITDA. I mean, there's multiple ways of what the fee is, but there is a fee associated with that. Yeah. I felt like I didn't need to do that. I had narrowed down to three different outfits that actually, out of the three, I narrowed it down to two. Believe it or not, I actually went with, I ended up going ultimately with the company that I went with, which the overall deal was actually not considerably. I don't want to tell you the exact amount, but it was a lot. It was less. Yeah. It was definitely in the well into the six figures less from a purchase price standpoint. But I thought it was a better fit for me. Yeah. My desire to work kind of on the platform level and help agencies and bring agencies in from a acquisition standpoint, mergers and acquisitions was really appealing to me. I really enjoyed and trusted the folks that I was working with at a regional level as well as kind of the corporate level. So yeah, that's why I did that. Again, I didn't the financial reason wasn't the number one driving force of why I did what I did. I know my friends and other colleagues won't believe me when I say that, but that's the truth. My wife and I are, we never really lived all that fancy. I just bought a new car. I've had the same car for the last 13 years. I just recently bought one. So we're just not fancy folks, and we tend to live kind of, I don't know. I guess you're not supposed to say frugally, but we do, and we're pretty easy to please. So, and I love that about my family and my wife, and that's kind of why we chose the path that we did, and it's worked out well.
Well, speaking of your family, has it afforded you more time to be with them? Are you working? I would imagine you're working in a different capacity now than you were before you sold it. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not involved in the day-to-day operations of the agency that I ultimately sold. Now we're kind of focusing on helping the platform and other agencies continue to grow and help with those challenges. But no, I'm not working day-to-day. Am I working less? I would say within the last 3-4 months, I absolutely am. I think the last... when I sold and for the first year, I was probably working actually a lot more. Yeah. And then recently, in the last number of months, been finally able to kind of adjust that and get a little more balance. So yeah, just recently, I've been finally able to take my kids to school. Awesome. Pick them up from school 3-4 days a week, which has never happened since I started an agency. Yeah. So it's been fantastic, and it's been really good. I've always struggled with the ride. I'm always so focused on getting there and the goal at the end result that I've always struggled with enjoying the journey and the ride. And that's something that I think I've gotten a better handle of recently. Yeah. I still struggle with it, so I may revert, but that's something that I'm really proud of in the last few months that I think I've got a better handle on.
That's awesome. And, you and I were talking beforehand that, so many people, especially when they're much older, right, and they're at quote unquote retirement age, which you're nowhere near, they find themselves, selling or exiting some form or fashion, and then there's just nothing that they have for a hobby, nothing to keep
Hmm.
their brain sharp. And it sounds like
Hmm.
I mean, you're still working, right? Like you're not,
Hmm.
you haven't just completely like fallen off the map with this agency,
Yeah.
but I would imagine that, if you've got a little bit of extra time to pick your kids up from school and take them to school and have all this extra time,
Hmm.
there's got to be other things that you're starting to like realize, as you said, ways to enjoy the journey, whether it's
Sure.
flying a little bit more or,
Yeah.
taking up some kind of new hobby. Can you
Yeah.
talk about sort of like the
Sure.
mental health aspect, I guess?
Oh gosh, that's yeah. I think that's so important. I think I've met so many people and talked to so many people that have sold their business or transitioned, and they're miserable
Yeah,
because they have identified themselves with what it is that they do in their career.
yeah,
That's not a bad thing, because
sure.
I did that as well, and I still do
Yeah,
to a point. But yeah, I think having other interests is so important,
yeah,
especially when I've got young kids. My kids are 8 and 9, and to be kind of a well balanced person. But yeah, absolutely. I've got a couple of ventures that I've started outside of insurance, which has been really exciting,
awesome.
and that's been tons of fun.
Yeah,
You mentioned flying, which is a passion of mine. I
yeah,
get to do a lot of that. My kids are at that age where they're slowly getting into more serious about sports instead of just kicking dirt around the field. So we're getting involved in that. We're starting to do a little more boating, since summer's only 3 months long around the Pacific Northwest. So we'll be able to spend a lot more time on the water. But yeah, no, it's been I'm just so blessed.
yeah,
Just I pinch myself every day, and I know you feel the same way. How blessed we are, and fortunate that we've got incredible family, friends, and kids are healthy, and it's just it's been a true blessing.
that's awesome. Yeah, I had Danny Kim. Do you know Danny Kimball?
No.
She's in the marketing space. She's a branding expert,
Okay.
and a lot of her focus is on insurance agencies, and she's made some good
Hmm.
inroads. She's actually helping me with. We just wrapped up, um, and it probably would have been one of the episodes that we already announced by this point because I'm about to say it. But she helped me brand a new company, a kind of an organization, really called Modern Catholic Family, that's going to serve obviously Catholic families, and it'll be a podcast and website and all that stuff. But in working with her, I've learned a lot about what it means because she's done this on her own too. When she jumped out of her 9 to 5 job, so to speak, and then created her marketing or her branding company, she literally, from the very beginning, decided I'm going to take Mondays off just so I can be
Good
with
for
my
her.
youngest daughter. She's got 4 kids. And
Yeah.
she posted a picture on LinkedIn recently of her youngest daughter with like a flower standing in a field. And she's like, this is brought to you by Mondays. Because if I hadn't done what I did
Yeah.
and taken the plunge,
Hmm.
I know we're kind of talking reverse because she created her own business where you sold yours, but there's still some element of kind of regaining some time and different aspects of control, I would imagine. But it's important. Family is, I mean, I know it's of utmost important to you, and it certainly is to me and a lot of others, right? But
Yeah.
it's good to hear that on the other side of the sale, it really is
Yeah.
true. Like you can
Yeah.
find some more time and some more
Yeah.
enjoyment and peace and
Well, I think, and you know this, and other agency owners and business owners in general, we are. When I started the agency scratch,
yeah,
we didn't buy a book. We grew 100% organically. We're
stud.
growing, 20-25% year over year, and we had a decent sized agency when we ended up selling. But you are and I didn't have a massive agency. I didn't have a marketing department, accounting department,
Yeah,
a sales department. I was it,
yeah,
right? I was the janitor, the sales,
yeah,
accounting, the CPA,
yeah,
payroll. I was all that. You're the janitor. vacuuming, I would vacuum my office, once a week.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it is, again, I tell people, look, I get it. You're not digging ditches or saving lives. I'm not trying to say it's the hardest thing in the world.
Yeah.
There's absolutely more difficult jobs and more important jobs.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to say that at all, but it was difficult.
Yeah.
It was probably one of the most difficult things I have done in my life to get that agency to where it went. Now, there are peaks and valleys where things get easier.
Sure.
And maybe I made things more difficult in my head just because I was so obsessed with growing.
Yeah.
I definitely, you could have taken the what do you call it, the foot off the gas a little bit,
Yeah.
and I probably could have coasted
Yeah.
for the next 10 years, but I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
For me, I was like, we got to grow.
Yeah.
If you're
Yeah.
not growing, you're dying.
Yep.
And I don't know if I necessarily believe in that saying as much now that I did back then, but that's what I thought in my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we just, all I knew was grow, and that's what we did. And I don't have any regrets, because if I didn't do that, then I wouldn't have the opportunity that I do now.
Right. Because you
But
had something you
you're
could
not,
sell, something
like,
that was marketable,
that's right.
something that had value.
Danny took a risk, started a business, and now she controls what she does on her Mondays.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
Exactly.
incredible. And then that's the beauty of taking a risk, starting your own business.
Yep.
And that's what we did, and it's been a blessing.
Awesome. So before we get into the rapid fire round, I kind of want to ask you, what lessons have you learned, or what were some of the biggest challenges you had when it came to actually selling your agency?
I think first of all, I think the biggest challenge is making the decision on, is this the right time?
Yeah.
And I definitely struggled.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you and other agency owners, can relate to this, that we were getting calls. I would get a
Every
phone
day.
call or an email probably, 3-4 times a day
Yeah.
for years.
Yeah.
So to finally actually sit down and listen to someone was, I think, the biggest difficult challenge for me.
Mm-hmm.
But once you decide, okay, this is the right time, let's do this.
Yeah.
Then the other challenge is deciding who you want to go with. I will say, and I will say that once you do decide to sell, you go through the due diligence process and close, there is a period where, and this took me a while to finally grasp that, oh man, it's not mine. And that was a little weird.
Yeah, I can
because at least for me, I made the logo.
Yeah.
I designed the website.
Yeah.
And the fact that, at the end of the day, it's not my, they work with you, they're your partner and all that stuff. But the fact ultimately, at the end of the day, it is not your agency anymore. Took a little bit of adjusting. And then once you adjust, then you kind of, you wrap your head around and work a little bit differently, and it becomes fun again. But yeah, there definitely was a period of a number of months where, I decided to sell, but oh boy, this isn't, our agency. That was a little bit of an adjustment for sure.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Something I did not expect.
Yeah, yeah. And probably, if I had to guess, you probably heard people telling you that before, but probably were like, yeah, whatever. I know I would have been thinking that, and then probably felt the same way.
It's like, I would compare it to before you had your first kid.
Yeah.
You could read books. You can talk to all your buddies and friends and parents, and they'll tell you what it's like.
Yeah.
But until you have your kid, no matter how many books or how many people tell you, you just don't understand, right? And that's what it is. Until you go through it yourself, you could prepare all you want mentally, but until you go through it yourself, then you realize, wow, okay, this is different. This is something I didn't experience.
Yeah. I can crystal clearly see what you're saying in that regard. And Maybe there'll be a day, one day. I mean, I've got 3 kids, so in theory, I've got 3 shots. But I also know that right now, none of them want to have anything to do with the agency, other than
Yeah.
maybe, and it's not even the agency, Agents Growth Academy. My daughter is my middle child is going to start, post processing all the or doing all the podcast editing. So it's like, but beyond that, no, I don't. So I don't know. I feel like I kind of know what my horizon is in terms of my
Hmm.
kids' decision points, but
Hmm.
yeah, and it's crazy because like you said, a lot of us agency owners do get bombarded every single day,
Yeah.
and a lot of times it's the same people. Half the time it's brand new people and never heard of
Hmm.
before.
Yeah.
And I bet like for the people that you were deciding, I'm curious about this. I know I said one last thing, but I'm curious about this. When it came down to the people that you were, or the organizations that you were considering, when it was those 3, were those people that had been after you for a while, or were any of them brand new? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think the actually this is an interesting question. The one I ultimately went with was a newer one
Okay.
that just kind of popped up.
Yeah.
They were really active in our area,
Yeah.
and I knew some of the people that had been acquired by them.
Yeah.
So I made some phone calls there. You know what? The one thing that I did, yeah, to answer your question, I went with somebody a bit newer and
Okay.
younger. The one thing that I did before I actually signed the deal, I probably spent a month talking to, and you probably know a lot of these folks that I called. I called probably 30 different people that either went through the process, sold, didn't sell, and
Yeah.
asked them, why not, would you
Yeah.
do it again, type of thing. So that was a really fun, interesting, 3-4 week period where I just called everybody and kind of picked their brain a little
I think
bit.
it was very
So,
smart of you to do that, honestly. I mean, I
you know
think if
what? I
anybody's
think I
listening
think
to
at the
this or
same
watching this.
time, no, I mean, I don't know if that was smarter or if it confused me even more. I have no idea because everyone has their own different reasons, and
Yeah.
looking back now, everyone has different experiences depending on who their regional leadership is or
Yeah.
their corporate leadership is or how their deal structure is. But it worked for me. I'm very blessed for it, and I continue to do the same for others that reach out to me. I love that, actually.
Yeah.
And for your listeners, if agents are kind of considering selling, I have no interest other than just making sure to kind of share what I went through,
Yeah.
and the pros and cons and what to look out for, and kind of share my experience because, like I said, there is kind of an adjustment period.
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna experience a little bit differently, but it's definitely something.
Yeah. That's great. Thanks for sharing that. So let's get into the rapid fire round. I'm curious to
Yeah,
learn
let's do it.
for our viewers and listeners to learn a little bit more about you. And who knows, maybe you'll surprise me too. What's what's one piece of technology that you just can't live without?
So I mentioned to you that I just recently bought a new car.
Yes.
So this technology is old, and you're going to laugh, and you're going to be like, this has been around for 10, 15 years.
A
But
cup
the
holder
car
is
that
not
I had
technology.
prior didn't have an app or any of that fancy stuff. This new car that I just bought a couple of months ago has an app. I pull it up, it tells you where you parked your car. I didn't know this thing existed.
It's
I
a
mean,
little
I
thing.
leave my car all the time in parking lots.
Oh man, you
So
are
this,
getting old. No.
yeah, oh man, I am sold. I am sold. So when I knew about this app that this car came with, I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. Now I never lose my car. I don't have to. I don't have to drive around the parking lot. I don't know if this is just a rumor, but people said just push the lock button, the horn button next to your chin. I would be doing that in my old car, listening for the horn. I don't have to do that anymore. Yeah, it's the greatest thing.
If I could somehow get some secret video of you doing that with the phone in your chin, I
Yeah,
would
you
pay,
holding the lock button, walking around the parking lot. Oh my
I
gosh,
would pay so much money for that.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if I black out after I park my car. I don't know what it is, but I could the times I would call my wife and be like, I'm looking for my car. It's absolutely
Why are you
ridiculous.
late
But now I
for
don't do
work?
that. Yeah,
That's fantastic. Automobile amnesia. That's what we're going to call that.
I know,
That's
I know.
fantastic.
Now it's got the heated seats and the
Oh,
cool seats, and again, I know this has been around forever on these new cars, but amazing.
you're living life right, man. You are
Mind
living.
blowing. I know.
You
I
are.
just sold my horse and buggy.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
What's one book you're reading now, or one you've read somewhat recently that on any subject that you want to share with folks?
Sure, sure. Let's see. Claudia McLean, who's a dear friend of mine. She's a agency owner over here in the Pacific Northwest. In fact, her office is, gosh, 10 minutes north of where our office used to be.
Yeah.
She's a dear friend, mentor. Been doing this for insurance for 30 years or so. Her and I were talking, and she's so kind that she ordered a book. She said, "Hey, Gabe, this is a new book that I really thought it was interesting. It was A Great Money Reset by Jill Schlesinger. She's a CBS financial
Okay.
analyst or something, and it's about the way the world and individuals should look at money post the COVID pandemic, kind of throwing some tips and tricks and some advice. And yeah, it was a good read.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Claudia, she's so sweet. We were just literally talking about life and said, "Hey, this is a book that I just recently read, and and she sent it to me, and she's the greatest."
That's awesome. Well, does everyone out in the Pacific Northwest just randomly send people that they meet stuff? Because I feel like that's a theme here with you
You
guys are
know
just
what?
really great
I don't
people.
know if it's a Northwest thing. I think it is the people you choose to spend time with.
Yep.
I've been very, very fortunate to have some incredible friends in and outside of the industry. Not to say that everyone's incredible. I mean, there's definitely some frogs out there, but for the most part, I've met some incredible people, and just super blessed.
That's awesome.
And you're one of them, Jim. Just so you know.
Well, I don't live in the Northwest, but I may as well. No, I'm kidding. Thank you, man.
Well, hey, do you follow football much?
Not much. No.
Not much. Well, you guys got you have a little bit of a quarterback controversy.
Yeah.
You got Michael Penix from University of Washington. Go Dogs, my alumni. You guys drafted our quarterback, who's a great quarterback, but then a few months earlier signed Kirk Cousins to one of the biggest quarterback contracts. So I'm actually really excited to follow the quarterback controversy.
We like to keep
Is
things
that where you
interesting.
guys live? Yeah, yeah.
Speaking of interesting, what's one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
I mentioned this earlier, but definitely try to enjoy the ride and the journey a little bit more.
Yeah.
I don't regret, I got this from my dad. I'm very much like my dad, where he is just so goal focused and push, push, push. And I've realized I've actually passed this on to my kids, specifically my oldest daughter. So I'm a little concerned about it because she's so driven. She just wants to be the best at everything she does.
Yeah.
So I really am trying to kind of enjoy the journey a little bit more, enjoy the ride. However, I do think I don't regret it because the drive got me to where I
Sure.
am now. So I don't regret that. I wouldn't change it, but definitely, slow down at times. I love this industry and continue to support our agencies within our platform and some of the other things that I'm doing now. But try to enjoy your friends and family a little bit more, and it's always been a challenge for me. That's always been a struggle, and I'll continue to. I haven't figured it out. I'll still struggle with it, but definitely something I would tell my younger self to do.
I love it. You reminded me when you were talking about that. One of our past guests, do you know Grant Botma?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, fantastic guy. He just recently spoke to our agency. We do like a speaker series every couple of months just to teach
Hmm.
our agents or really our all of our
Yep.
staff like, life skills and things that they want to learn about. And he wrote a great book called Work-Life Harmony, which it sounds so much about sounds very similar to what you're saying is like you've got to there is a and he doesn't call it a balance. He says balance is impossible. You've got to find harmony between,
Hmm.
like you're saying, the drive and the desire to slow down and
Yeah.
spend quality time
Yeah.
with people. That it's
Yeah.
not just time, it's quality time. Gosh, if there's one prayer I say, I say prayers. I learned from a priest a long time ago after I went to confession. He's like, you know what? You should find some time to pray with your kids. And I was like, oh, when am I going to do that? They were little at the time. So I started praying in the car on the way to school, and it was amazing what would come out of their mouths when they started saying, hey, Daddy, I have a prayer. But, one of the things was just that I constantly pray about is like, help me find the time to really slow down and spend quality time with my family. Not just
I love that.
sitting next to each other, all of us on our phones, but like,
Yeah.
let's do something. Sounds like
I love
that's
that.
what you're talking about too.
Yeah. I love that, Jim. Yeah, I think, like I said, I've always struggled with kind of all or nothing
Yeah.
mentality
Yeah.
where I was just 100% focused on, you know, the business, and then I would neglect other areas of my life.
Yeah.
And just recently I've figured out to kind of adjust that a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always going to be a struggle. I think it's just something that's either you have it or you don't, and it's just kind of how I'm built, and
Yeah.
I can't help it. I'll blame my dad, but I'm sure he's not all to blame as well. But yeah, so but it's a constant struggle in my life. I wouldn't change it for the world
Yeah.
because it is what it's made me who I am,
Yeah.
and it's made me have the opportunities that I have now.
Yeah.
So I'm very blessed for that, but it is definitely something that I've always been mindful of and kind of struggled with. Yeah,
We are all works in progress, my friend.
we are absolutely 100%.
Um, One last question before we kind of wrap up here, but what is, based on what we talked about today in terms of selling your agency, what's one piece of advice that you would leave our audience with?
I think, again, selling, deciding to find the right outfit to sell to, it's going to be personal and different for everybody.
Yeah.
And I told you I spent, a month calling 30, 40 people and talking their ear off for an hour each. And then looking back now, none of it really, none of it was what I'm experiencing or what I experienced. It's
Yeah.
everyone's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But I think what it is you will know when it's time to sell. And more importantly, my advice would be to talk to and trust those folks that have gone through the process, but maybe they don't have a skin in the game, right?
Yeah.
The folks that are calling me, they know that I don't have a financial. If they sell or they don't sell, I have no skin in the game other than I wanted to share my experience. That's why they reach out to me, which I'm grateful for. So yeah, reach out to the right people. I've noticed definitely, during the last 5-6 months, there'll be certain people that'll reach out. And I know that they've got some type of interest. So try to weed those folks out and don't spend too much time with those
Yeah.
folks. And spend time with people that actually care, and genuinely want you to win.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Yes.
Yeah.
Especially that last part.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Gabe, if people want to get more Gabe O in their life, where do they reach out to you? How do they find you?
The app, LinkedIn, email, they could call me on my cell phone. You can share all that information. I have not been very active on social media. I used to be,
Yeah.
especially when I was the owner of our agency. I was, as I was doing the walk with Gabe's and doing this and all over LinkedIn and Facebook. And I think a lot of folks, it's funny because just recently, so many people have said, that they assumed that I loved doing all that, and I didn't really love it. I did it because, when you're an agency owner, especially in the community that we live in,
Yeah.
you've got to put yourself out there. And
Sure.
I loved highlighting other business owners and clients of ours, but I personally didn't like it. So I've kind of stepped back in social media a little bit,
Yeah.
which has been really fantastic.
Yeah.
I think with some of our new ventures coming up, I may kind of step back and in different ways than I did before, and I'm excited about that. But anyways, to answer your question, reach out to me on LinkedIn, Facebook, friend me, you can send me a text, call me. I genuinely want people to win. I genuinely just care for people and want to share my experience. So yeah, don't hesitate to reach out, and I will always find time.
I love it. Well, I appreciate you being in my life. And for anybody who wants to reach out, I guarantee you, your life will be better for having known Gabe. So,
You're too kind, Jim. Thanks for having me, and I'm glad your hair is still looking sexy as always.
the bright lights maybe make the grays somehow disappear, but I guarantee you that they are there.
This is gray with Just for Men.
I love it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, Gabe, it's been a pleasure having you on, my friend. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. You stick with me for a second. For everybody else, grow big or go home. See you guys.